Hey, what's up guys? Sloth King here. Today I am working on a 2009 Ford Mustang. It's the V6 version, and we are going to be replacing that thermostat housing. Now these things are known to just crack and leak and just, yeah, it's just a mess. So I found a upgraded aluminum version online, so I decided to pick that up. So it doesn't seem like too hard to do. It actually seems like you can get it done within like 30 minutes to an hour at the most. Let me go ahead and show you what we're going to need, and let's jump right into this. All right guys, this is what we are going to need. So let's start off with some type of drain pan. If you are not jacking your vehicle up, I recommend this kind of drain pan, but if you can jack it up high enough, just grab a bucket or something. I'm using I forget the size of this hose. I think it's a 5/16 inside diameter. This will just allow you to plug this onto the drain plug on your radiator, so you can just have a hose come out right into your drain pan so it doesn't make a mess. This is a spill-proof funnel, so you won't have to worry about getting coolant everywhere, especially whenever you burp the system. Next thing, you will need a torque wrench. This is an inch-pound torque wrench. We're going to need this for our thermostat housing bolts. And then this is a foot-pound torque wrench. I do plan on taking off one of the idler pulleys. It is supposed to be easier to take the whole housing off, so we do need to torque the pulley back down. So we will need a foot-pound torque wrench as well. But I'm pretty sure you can get around not needing to take off that idler pulley. I'm just going to do it just to save time and make it easier on myself. And if you are going the route of taking the pulley off, you will need a breaker bar to attach to the tensioner, so that way we can take the belt off. And then you are going to need a few socket sets. I have just your normal 1/4 inch set. I have an SAE, and then I also have a metric set, and then I also have a 3/8 set as well. You will need some gloves for this for sure. Just to take the hose clamps off, I do have this set of hose clamp tools, or you can just use some pliers, either or. Definitely get yourself some rags. And then this is the upgraded housing right here. I got this off of Amazon, so we're going to see how well it works. It does come with a gasket on the bottom, a new sensor, and everything is all bolted together. And it does come with a new thermostat itself. And last but not least, since we're going this deep in, I picked up a heater hose, and this goes to the water pump. So you see this little bottom piece right here? This is the hose that attaches to that. So since we're going this deep in here, we might as well replace the hose, so that way we don't have to take all of this off again in the future. Now you can replace your radiator hoses in the future, but this one is just more of a pain to do because you have to take it all off to replace that one. So while we're here, let's just go ahead and do that. And that's it. So let's go ahead and start tearing into this and get this thing done. All right guys, so we are going to drain some coolant out of this radiator. So as you can see, I have this hose hooked right up onto this petcock right here. And if you notice this nut right here, we can throw a 19mm socket on it, and then we can open it up. Now this car is kind of low, so it's kind of hard to like get the camera down in here to get an angle. I'll show you what I mean. So we're just gonna open it a little bit. Nothing too crazy. Just enough. Oh. Okay. Well, I guess I'll slide the whole pan down here. And then you'll see some coolant dripping. And if you come up here and just open up your reservoir, it'll just allow some air to get through, and it'll just push a bit more of that coolant out. And usually I try to not take out the full petcock, or drain plug, I should say, whatever you want to call it, because it usually makes a mess like that. So we're gonna let that drain for a minute, and then we will come right back to it. All right guys, now that we have some of the coolant drained, we can go ahead and start working on taking apart all this stuff up here. So let's start doing that. All right, let's go ahead and take out our accordion hose right here. So we need to undo this sensor right here. So on this red tab, we have to pull the red tab back, and then we can push this piece of plastic in to release the clip. There's that. And then we just have to loosen these two 8mm bolts on these clamps. Once that is loose, we can go ahead and try to wiggle it off. There's that one. And then same thing over on the air box over on this side. And then we can just, well, I thought we were just gonna be able to get this up and out of the way. I guess we have to release this hose too. So on here, there's this weird connector. You have to pull it up, and then it should just release, just like that. There's this tab, you push back, pull forward, and then wiggle the hose, and it'll come right off. Now we can set this aside. Next, we're going to take off our throttle body right here. Before we do that, there's one more connector that we have to remove. Push back or pull back this red tab like before. And then once that's pulled back, we can go ahead and squeeze the inside and then take it off. Just like that. And then now we remove these 4 8mm bolts. Ooh, thank you. I definitely recommend getting a longer extension for this. I have 2 short extensions to reach these bottom bolts. And then whenever you're removing these, just keep in mind the length of them. Some throttle bodies will have longer and shorter bolts, so make sure you just keep track of them. And after looking at all of these, they are the same size bolts, so you don't have to worry about mixing up the different lengths. So now with those bolts out, you can literally just remove the throttle body. And now that I'm thinking about it, I totally forgot to pick up a new gasket for this. So if you're at this point of just watching it before you order the parts, make sure you order a new gasket. This looks pretty dirty. Well, not too dirty. It's not, actually, it's really not that bad. We can go ahead and clean this here in a little bit. All right, so now that we have the throttle body out of the way, we can start taking off this hose right here. So just go ahead and get your pliers or whatever you're planning on using, hose clamps, whatever. All right. Now, sometimes these might be hard to take off, and sometimes they're not. Looks like this one is just fine to take off. Sometimes they like get stuck on there, so you really have to like sit there and twist and pull it off. And then let's just get this up and out of the way. Next, we are going to take off this hose right here. Now, I tried finding a part number for this hose. I cannot find this hose anywhere. It was really hard to find. So if you have better luck finding a hose, go ahead and let me know below. This is actually really easy to replace like afterwards. So if you don't have the hose on you while you do it, you can replace it after. So the same thing with these clamps right here. They are 8mm. So let's go ahead and take that off. All right, now it should be loose enough to just pop off. Now this one is stuck on here like I told you how some of the hoses are. So sometimes you might have to get some big pliers out just to grab it and twist the hose itself. Wow, that was like really stuck on there. Holy cow. Well, we will get back to that later. Let's focus on getting this out. All right, and actually I just started twisting this hose and it actually broke loose. So we can go ahead and take this hose off. And there it is right there. All right, so the next thing that we need to do, we need to disconnect this sensor right here. So if you look at it, it is literally one of those sensors where you just push this tab in and you pull it up. There it is right there. Now, if you cannot reach that, you can literally just get some needle nose pliers, go in there, pinch it, and lift it up. And the last thing we need to do is go in here and take out these 3 8mm bolts. They are right here, and right here. Now, some of these are kind of hard to get to. So I actually just remembered that I have a wobble socket on me. And a wobble socket is literally what it sounds like. It is this. So it is just like a regular extension socket, and then you pull it out and it wobbles. It's kind of like a universal joint, but this actually locks into place. So this should actually allow me to get in here at a better angle to take out some of these bolts. So I have it unlocked, brought it right back there, and then it allowed me to go and bypass this piece of your intake. Now, a lot of you mechanics know about these sockets, but some of you newer guys don't. So there's something that you guys can pick up for yourself in the future. These actually come in handy. And whenever we're loosening this, I like to loosen all 3 first, so that way I know it's not gonna loosen up in a weird manner. Now this, I believe this is a fuel hose right back here, so we can't really just take that off. All right, now that we know those are loose, I told you guys that there was an option to remove this idler pulley and then get the belt out of the way and then remove the idler pulley. So if you guys want to go this route, let me show you this really quick. So here's your tensioner down here. Your tensioner, there is a cutout. Let me see if I can get it for you. That is for a 3/8 ratchet end. You don't need to put any socket on it. So you can use just a regular 3/8 ratchet like I showed you guys before, or you can get a breaker bar with a reducer adapter on it. So it goes from a 1/2 inch to a 3/8. And then you just pop it on here. And then you just turn it counterclockwise to loosen the belt. This is really hard to do with one hand. All right, so we get in here, turn it counterclockwise. That'll bring the tension off this belt. And then you can just slip it off. And then put the tensioner back, and boom, that's it. Now you can go ahead and remove the whole belt if you need to, but while we're here, let's go ahead and inspect this belt. And this belt actually looks like it needs to be replaced pretty soon. It's kind of hard to show on camera, but I do see some micro cracks in it. If you see some micro cracks or some bigger cracks or anything like that, that is signs that your belt is wearing out and you should replace it. So right now, this is a good time to go ahead and just check how your pulleys sound. So water pump pulley. Oh, well, you can hear that it's pushing the coolant around. You can check your idler pulley. It actually sounds fine. Check your alternator. Try to push in on it and then spin it. Sounds fine to me. This is your power steering pump. That sounds fine. And then your AC compressor right down here. If you spin those and you don't hear any weird like grinding noises, then it's completely fine. But I do have a video when I replaced my belt on my 4Runner, and I moved one of the pulleys and I heard like a grinding sound, and that is like a sign that like your pulley is going out and you need to replace it pretty soon. But anyway, so now we can go ahead and remove this nut. This is a 15 millimeter. So this is where your breaker bar comes in handy. Just pop it on here and loosen it up. All right, with that off, just go ahead and place it aside. Now we can get to this hose a lot easier and replace it. Now this actually looks like it's ballooning out a little bit. That doesn't look great. So same thing, let's go ahead and get our 8 millimeter on here. Remove this top hose clamp, and then we're gonna remove the bottom one. Wow, these are actually really loose. There's like no tension on here. Now with that loose, go ahead and take out your 3 bolts here, and then we can go ahead and remove this whole housing. All right, now with the bolts out, there's one bolt that you can't really take out until you start to move this housing. So if you tilt it forward, you can remove that rear bolt. And then now, we should be able to just wiggle this whole thing, and then it'll pop out of this hose on the bottom. Or we can just take it out in one nice step by loosening this clamp fully on the bottom, so we can get that hose just detached, and then it should just pull straight out. Just like that. Now, if you do keep this idler pulley right here, you're gonna have to turn the whole housing and then just yank it out. So now, we can go check out our mess real quick. Look at this. This has been leaking for a long time. This is gross. Just a poor design. That is crazy. I get like making it out of plastic, but you gotta make it out of good plastic. The one on my 4Runner right here, it's the neck right here is just made out of plastic, and I never had an issue with it. It was still 16, 17 years old, original thermostat housing on it. It had like 140,000 miles on it, and it never cracked. This has like the same mileage, and this has been replaced before because this is a Dorman product, not original Ford. So this has been replaced in the past. It's just a terrible design. But now, as you can see, there's so much coolant that leaked back there. Oh, that is not good. So while you're in here, you can go ahead and shove some rags back there, try to sop up some of that coolant. And then before we install the new housing, there is some stuff that we have to remove on here. So if we just take like a razor blade and just scrape over the top and just clean this whole area up. I'll show you that here in a minute, but that's what we're gonna have to do. And then we can replace this hose and pop the new housing back in. All right, so before we start cleaning this whole housing up right here, or mating surface, go ahead and put a rag or paper towel, something inside of here, so that way we don't drop any contaminants inside of this cooling system. We just don't need that going through the whole thing to possibly damage or clog up something. So just take your razor blade. You can have it at a 90-degree angle on the top, or perpendicular, whatever you want to call it. Just scrape over the top like this, or you can go around the whole thing and just scrape it. Do not gouge this mating surface. Whatever you do, do not gouge it. But just clean up the whole area, get any of the previous gasket off, any gunk, possible rust if there is any. Wipe it off, make sure you got everything off of there. If not, go over it one more time. And that looks great. Let me show you up close. Yep, looks pretty clean to me. And then, yeah, just go ahead and sop up any of the coolant that's back there. All right, I just tried cleaning up back there as best as possible. And this is what I had to clean up. Oh, that is so gross. That is nasty. I didn't realize how much coolant was back there, and like, you know, some rust, some dirt, whatever. So yeah, make sure you guys clean that up back there. All right, let's rip off this old hose. This is a Ford OE hose, so I think it's been on there for a very long time. Oh yeah, look at how old that looks. All right, toss that aside. Now, whenever we put our new clamps on, we want to face them in a direction where we can easily access them. So just put them both on like this, and then you should be good to go. So here's our new housing. It already has a new sensor. I read that this sensor can be finicky, so just keep an eye on that. If you need to replace it, it's not too bad. You just pull this pin out, and then this whole thing will pop off, and then you can put the new one on. I believe you can actually do it while it's still in the car. So make sure that your gasket is on the bottom, but we're gonna pop our hose on first, and it is going to be at an angle like this. So when it's facing forward, we want the angle to go down. So we're going to pre-install this part of the hose, get our clamps on, that way they can face this way, out towards you. And then whenever we go to install this, just put this in sideways, line it all up, and then push that coolant hose down on top of the water pump. And it should seat pretty flat. We might actually need to take it out. Ooh, whoops. Oh, careful, because this will pop out. There's this lower gasket right down here. So let's position it so whenever our neck is on there like that, we're just going to rotate the hose a little bit. All right, let's do a mock-up real quick. Let's lay this down flat where it wants to be. All right, looks like it lines up like that. And then we're going to have our hose just sit on there like this. It's going to sit on here like that. All right, feels like it's seated pretty well. Let's go ahead and put one of our bolts in just to keep it in place. I'm gonna put the rear one in first, just so it actually, you know, can line up. All right, now just start installing all of your bolts, and then these get torqued down to 86 or 89 inch-pounds. All right guys, so I have this installed right now. I'm about to torque down these 3 bolts. Now you want to torque it down in a pattern where it's just like in the triangle. So here, 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 or whichever, as long as you do even torque around it. And I'm gonna do 89 inch-pounds. And then after that, we can go ahead and tighten up our hose clamps right here and then throw our idler pulley back on and get it all back together. So I have an adapter that goes from 3/8 all the way down to 1/4 inch. And then this is my setup right here. This is all I have on hand. Usually I have other tools at home, but this is what I have on me. There's that. Let's do the back one. Done. Now, if you guys do not have a torque wrench, you can get it all down hand tight and then tighten it a 1/4 turn on each one. Just don't go too tight on it because you can snap these bolts. So just be careful. Now just go ahead and tighten up our worm clamps and then we can move on. All right, clamps are on, everything's secured. Take note of how I place those bolts if you're using worm clamps. This will allow us to have easy access in the future. Now let's go ahead and put our idler pulley on. If you took it off, that gets torqued down to 35 foot-pounds. There we go, torque down. Now before you put your belt on, grab some throttle body cleaner, put it on a rag and just wipe off the pulley. Just in case if you got any type of coolant on it, wipe off the water pump pulley as well. This will keep our belt nice and clean from any of those contaminants and prevent any squeaking if you did get any kind of fluids on them. Now you can go ahead and reinstall your belt and then we can put our sensors back on and then we'll almost be done. All right, with everything installed, you can go ahead and put all of your sensor clips back on, and then you can reinstall this hose. Now, I think I have an extra spare molded hose on me somewhere. I'm gonna see if the size fits. If not, go ahead and put the original one back on that you guys have, or if you bought a new one. And then, just reinstall everything else, and then you will be done. Now, you guys can also spray some throttle body cleaner in here, clean your throttle body up before reinstalling it. Now try not to move the butterfly flap right here because it is on a motor, so we don't want to potentially damage that. Just go ahead and wipe it out and then it's going to be all clean. All right, that will do it. All right, and for the throttle body bolts, they are also torqued to 89 inch-pounds. And then when they're all tight, torque them, well, turn them an additional 45 degrees. Perfect. And then let's just go an additional 45 degrees. Right there. Right there. Boom. All done. Now just go ahead and connect your other sensors, well, your clips for your sensors. Plug them all in. Make sure they click on. And then insert the red tab. Same thing with here. Red tab is on. And then I also found, I actually had a spare molded hose. It came from my Supra and it fit on just fine. This is silicone, so it'll work just fine. And usually you don't want to use worm clamps on silicone, but I do not have my spring clamps on me. But this is way better than putting an old hose on there because I'm pretty sure that old hose was on its way out. All right, last thing to do. Pop on your radiator hose, put your clamp on, connect your air hose, and then let's go ahead and fill it up with some coolant. All right, now we're just going to go ahead and fill it up with coolant. All right, and I do have a video out already on how to burp your cooling system, so go ahead and check that out. I'm not gonna do that in this video. Just go ahead and follow that if you want to. So let's go ahead and fire it up and see how she runs. So far, so good. There are 0 leaks. Just gonna let this warm up and make sure all the coolant is bled through. Alrighty guys, we're up to temp. And there are 0 leaks, which is great. This is a success. All right guys, and that's it. As you guys saw, there are no leaks. Everything's running great. And yeah, actually wasn't too bad to do. Probably took about an hour or so. And yeah, this let's see how long this aluminum housing lasts. I hope it's a great upgrade, and it's obviously way better than the stock one, because that stock one is just awful. But yeah, everything I used in this video, I will link in the description below, so that way you guys can go grab it. And anyways, if you found it helpful, sweet, glad to hear. And like always, I'll catch you guys on the next ride.